Welcome to SQL Answers, the channel where we take focused database and SQL topics and explain them in short, concise videos, one at a time. Okay, in today's video, I'd like to go over a database backup solution for SQL Server databases written by OLA Hallengren. So I've got the URL here you can go to get information or even download the utility. And I'll have this in the description of the video. So you can just click on the link and go there. But this is a free backup solution for SQL Server databases, and it's widely used in the SQL Server community. I believe it's superior to SQL Server maintenance plans or other homegrown solutions. It's implemented just as stored procedures that you can install into a utility database on your server. I usually create a database named SSTS admin and I install it in there and systems that I'm supporting. There are 61 parameters in the most recent version of the utility, and they're used to control the behavior. And the solution gets updated as SQL Server versions come out and release. So it's not something that's just set in stone. It is evolving with SQL Server. So the installation details are here. You would go to the URL to download the solution. The name of the file is maintenancesolution.sql, and it'll contain the database backup store procedure as well as some other goodies you might be interested in, like index maintenance and database integrity checks. I would suggest you install it in a utility database, and there's a use command at the top of the script to change the target database. And there's some parameters to the install that you might be interested in. We'll take a look at these in a minute. So create jobs, backup directory, cleanup time, output file directory, and log to table. The requirements is that you must be a member of the sysadmin group to install, and the compatibility level of your SQL instance must be greater than or equal to 90, which corresponds with SQL Server 2005. And if all this seems overwhelming, feel free to contact me. We can do a project. This is what I specialize in. So here's what the link looks like. And you would just click on this link here to download the solution. And all the parameters are discussed in detail here. And I'll just crack open the solution. So this is the file that you download, maintenance solution. And at the top of the script, you can override some of these values. So create jobs. If it's set to yes, it'll actually create jobs on your SQL Server instance. They just won't have a schedule. And you can go in and schedule the backups to run whenever you want. Backup directory is a default for where your target for your backups would go to on your server. Cleanup time is a default cleanup time for the backups and retention. We're going to discuss that in detail in a minute. And then output file directory and log to table are for specifying the output of the jobs. Again, here's the 61 parameters. The ones in bold, we're going to go through in a little bit of detail here. So the key parameters, of course, if you got databases, that's going to specify which databases that you're going to back up. It's just a comma delimited list. You can name databases explicitly, or there are some special keywords that the utility supports. So system databases corresponds to the master database, MSDB, and model. And user databases is basically everything else. And there's a few other keywords like availability group databases that you could use. You can also use wildcards. So anything that starts with A, B, C, or any other pattern you come up with. And you could use a minus sign to omit a database from being backed up. The directory parameter, it specifies the target root directory where backups will be stored. Backup type specifies whether you're going to do a full backup, a differential backup, or a log backup. Verify will check whether or not the contents of your backup are good and report back if it finds a problem. And cleanup time, that's going to be an hourly value. So how long do you want to keep the backup? Do you want to keep it for a day? Then you would specify 24 for 24 hours. If you wanted 2 days, you'd specify 48 hours and so on. Cleanup mode specifies whether or not backups are going to be cleared before or after the backup. In general, I recommend after a successful backup. That way you know you've got a good backup before you clean off anything older. So that would require keeping 2 full backups on disk at your peak footprint. Compress specifies if you want to compress your backups or not. You probably want that on unless it's taxing your server too much because it will require some CPU. Log to table. So the solution will create a command log table in whatever database that you install it into, and log to table will log the commands and their results to that table. And then execute is good for testing. So if you want to test a dry run of what you're configuring, you can specify execute equals no, and then you can see the output of your command in your SSMS window. Okay, I just want to take you through a few sample calls using the store procedure. So you would set your database context to wherever you have the solution installed, and then you would just make an execute call on database backup and pass the parameters to it. You'll always, in general, going to have a databases parameter passed in. In this case, it's using user databases, which is a tag that it gets exploded out to whatever databases that are not system databases on your server. You specify a directory. This is the root directory where the backups will go, and it'll create a directory structure underneath it. You give it a backup type. In this case, it's saying full backup. We're going to specify we want to verify the backups, compress them, get a checksum, and then after a successful backup, we're going to clean up 24 hours, anything older than 24 hours. The next example here, we are going to back up all the system databases to a network share. That's what this is. It's using UNC notation. Backup type is full, and we're verifying. Next example is we're going to log the commands that are being run with their results to a table. So system databases, this is the directory, backup type full, verify yes, and we're specifying, yeah, I want to log everything to a table, and that's going to go to the command log that we discussed earlier. Some cases you might want to do a dry run or a test run of what you're configuring. All you do is slap on an execute equals no at the end, or N, and it'll show the output in your SSMS window. And the last example here, we're going to show you something for a mirror backup. So in this case, we're going to have backups going to 2 different locations on the system. So we're saying user databases. Our first directory structure is C backup, and our mirror directory is D backup. These are going to be full backups, compressed, verified, clean up after 24 hours under the first directory structure, and then you can specify an alternative mirror cleanup time for the mirror directory, and we're logging to a table. Thanks for watching today's video. Please consider liking and following for more, and hit the notification button. Also, I'm looking for comments, please, good or bad. We want to improve the channel as much as we can. And if you have a question, feel free to hit that URL below, and I'll have it in the description of the video. Thanks, guys.